Somehow I'm waiting everybody to get on here, so give me just a few minutes. We've got about a minute left. It's telling me, Hosna, preparing to live stream the webinar, but the bar is only going so far. So let's see. I'm just dealing with a few technical issues here. Okay. So I'm going to see if it'll load, and if it doesn't, then we'll just go ahead anyway. So I'm going to move that down. Get a different view here. All right. Okay, I'm looking at the time here. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining and being part of this today. And we're going to get started. It's 10 o'clock here on the West Coast in California. And I'm Dr. Nancy Hillis. I'm so happy that you're here. And I'm the founder of the Studio Journey Masterclass and 2 best-selling books, The Artist's Journey and The Adjacent Possible. And a lot of what we talk about will be from the materials in this book. So we'll get started here. And I'm just so happy that you're here to be part of this new workshop from No to Flow, and welcome. This is all about creating abstract paintings that wow you. And that's really what we want to do in this session, is help you to discover a framework, a methodology for creating abstract paintings that excite you, that surprise you. And this is going to immediately help you to loosen up in your art. And you're going to start experiencing confidence when you face that blank canvas. So this is what we're about. So our objective here and our goal of this series is simple. It is to help you easily create abstract paintings that wow you, abstract paintings that you love. That's what we want. So I'm going to show you how to loosen up so you can create those paintings that surprise and excite you. And you're going to find out that the more you can open creative channels, the more you can go to that place of creating exciting art. And that gives you a greater opportunity to get into a state of flow, which is where we want to go. We want to go from no, the refusal, to flow, the opening, you know, that place where you're in another place and it's time is elastic. It's as if it's not even happening and you lose all sense of time. And that's really where we want to go. So are you ready to make it happen? All right, so let's get started here. But before we dig in today, I got to warn you of something. And it's critically important to keep this in mind, because if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to get the same results. Have we not all seen that? So what we're talking about here is moving past the tyranny of technique. Okay, a lot of artists chase technique. They take tons of classes, class after class, to learn technique after technique. But the problem is that when you do that, your art starts to look like a series of techniques. And that's not where the magic is. So art is not technique. Now, we can use art and we can use technique. We can use technique to help us in our art, but it's not the thing itself, okay? So it's sort of a means to an end, but it's not the end itself. So we want to kind of get off of that tyranny of technique. And what I've learned is that it's really about the foundational concepts that we can pull from, these principles. If we can learn these principles and concepts, then we can extrapolate from that and bring it into our art and create something new, okay, something surprising. And we can learn from all kinds of things to do that, from nature, from science, from mathematics, all kinds of things, from our lives. Okay, so we want to go to that place of surprise, because essentially getting at those principles and foundations is like the root and the trunk of the tree, rather than getting caught up in the tiny little limbs and the leaves, in the minutia. No, we want to go to the foundations and extrapolate from that and bring it in for art. Because what happens is, if you get hung up in technique, the leaves and the limbs out there, what happens is your paintings just start to look like technique, and they're just not surprising. It looks like you just took a technique class and there you go. And we've all been there. But really what we want to do is get away from that and cultivate surprise. Art is about going to that edge, into the unknown, okay, into innovation. And that's where we want to go. So that's what we're about here. And that's what we want to explore in this workshop, is going there. So we know that painting comes with challenges. Being an artist is not easy. Creating art is challenging. It's hard, and sometimes it's a struggle, and that's part of it. And sometimes you get hung up and you want to just throw your hands up because you don't know what to do, you don't know where to start, and it can become a real struggle and a real issue. And I think that these kinds of issues come up again and again in our life cycle as artists. We're continually grappling with different aspects as creators. So let's demystify the process of facing the blank canvas and starting a painting, okay? And I believe that this is going to save you a lot of time and frustration getting at these big concepts, okay? So the objective here in this first session is that I want to share with you a methodology that I've developed over years, okay? Years of looking at paintings, years of painting, years of looking at patterns. I see patterns, visual patterns. I was a radiologist in the past. So I looked at X-rays and CT scans and MRIs. So I'm a very visual person, which I'm sure you are as well. But I look for patterns in things. And this is something I've been thinking about for a long time, after years of trial and error and struggling around in my art, and trying to get at moving beyond technique and moving into those foundations, into those big concepts, those big rocks, okay? And I started asking myself, what's really going on here when we're creating art, okay? What are those big rocks? What are those big ideas that we need to keep in mind throughout the process of being an artist, whether you're at the very beginning or you've been painting for 30 years or more? Whether you've got like hardly any paintings under your wing or you've got miles of canvas, there are certain concepts we need to be aware of and keep in mind continually, because in creating art, we're solving problems. Problems arise. We're accessing the unknown, and we're stepping into surprise. And all of these things are important, and it's challenging at times. And it doesn't really matter where you are in that life cycle as an artist. It is challenging, as you know, at times. And so we want to get to a place of getting those big concepts and learning to simplify things and kind of accessing a state of ease as much as possible. So that's part of it. And so, stepping back for a minute and looking at these patterns, I developed this kind of methodology called the IC methodology. And I'm going to have the one and only Dr. Bruce Sawhill, my partner, come here and say hello, first of all.
Hello, everyone.
And Bruce is a physicist and mathematician and musician as well, composer. He's an artist in his own right. And Bruce is going to help us to visualize what we're talking about here. So we're talking about IC. Bruce is left-handed.
You can just call me Vanna.
So the IC, ISEE is the acronym, methodology. And what is this? Okay, I believe that this is going to be a tremendous resource for you to kind of get some big concept of this, and that it's going to help you eliminate getting stuck in your art and hopefully create some breakthroughs in there as well. And so we'll get into this in just a moment. Bruce is going to help us with that. Okay. So maybe you're just getting started here. Maybe you want to create abstract paintings, or maybe you've been painting for a long time. Maybe you're a serious and seasoned professional, but you want to create innovative art. You want to create art that surprises you. You don't want to just keep creating similar paintings where it's becoming predictable, right? So either way, I think that this is the right place today and this week, because we're going to be looking at this. We're going to be looking at what are these big concepts that make a big difference and that it's important to be aware of. Okay. So that we can continually go to that edge of creating surprising art and of activating surprise in our painting process. That's what we want, cultivating surprise. So I can tell you a story from my background is that I've been here many, many, many times grappling with how do you create astonishing art, trying to figure that out. And it's not easy, and one can get easily sidetracked. I surely have at times. And I kept asking, well, what is it? How do you get there? You know that moment when you see paintings and they just absolutely wow you? It's like, how do you get there? And that's what I'm really interested in getting at. What is that about? And so one of the things I've noticed over the years in thinking about this is artists have a tendency to focus on finishing, okay? The tendency to race to the finish, to try to create that masterpiece. And I am right there. I've had this issue for years. I definitely have been one of those artists racing to the finish, to try to create a masterpiece in one painting, in every painting, okay, trying to get there. And I was racing towards the outcome, okay? I was focused on the outcome. And I would submit to you that it's vitally important to not be so focused on the outcome, but rather on starting, rather on the miracle of starts and creating exciting starts. And that's what I started to realize, is that this is a great way of getting to know your own particular gestural expression, your lexicon, your particular signature that's unique to you, okay? And that it's about getting in there and starting. And I saw very seasoned artists getting caught, getting trapped, and also trying to create masterpieces, getting too trapped in the outcome, and really realizing we need to come back to the foundations again and again. I've worked with many professional artists who have gotten stuck. And so what we do is we come back, let's come back. in this spiral, and let's come back to starting again. Let's get back at that excitement. Okay. Back to the big pieces, big rocks. Okay. And so the one we're going to talk about today on this first session is starting. The power of starts, creating exciting starts. So Bruce, can you tell us about the I? Let me just say what the I is. The I, can you write it down here? I. The I is the inner, your inner landscape, your inner narrative, your inner journey, your psychology that affects everything. And this will thread through everything we do, all the lessons. Okay, so we know the inner, trusting yourself is so important. Saying yes to what you want to do is so important. And then we've got 3 actions. And today we're going to talk about the S. Can you write that down, Bruce? Uh-oh, what's going
I'm
on?
having a hard time starting. I need a nudge.
All right, starting. Sometimes all we need is a bit of a nudge from our friends, from our teachers, from other artists, from ourselves to say yes to starting. All right. So, and again, time and again, this is where I see a lot of artists being stuck, is not starting. So, you got to start, okay? And we need to get back to the power of starting. So my personal story was that I was painting lots of representational paintings, landscapes, still lifes, horses, portraits, collage, all these things. And it was great. But what I found is I wanted to go into abstract painting more and more, more abstracted painting. I wanted to get into expressionistic art, and I wasn't really sure how I was going to do that. So I just kept struggling around on that. And what I found is that I could work with foundational concepts and bring that to abstract painting. And that helped tremendously. And that is concepts like constraint, simplicity, and the elegant solution we talk about in science. So Occam's razor and all of that. And predominance, for example, in composing. Oh, a lot of this, a little bit of that. Value patterns, contrast, extrapolating from what our eye gets excited by, which is essentially visual contrast, movement, edges. And we know this from nature. Animals are very tuned into this. They're tuned into visual contrast. I think the first colors were blue and yellow that were first seen by the eye way back, and they're on the ends of the visual spectrum from one another. And they also notice movement. They also notice contrast, edges, because this, I believe, confers survival. So we too love those kinds of things, and we can simplify those. So, there are reasons why there are certain things that are visually exciting. We can pull from nature. Nature can teach us a great deal about visual excitement. We can also pull from mathematics and evolutionary biology and all kinds of things, big concepts we can bring to our art. Poetry, music, you name it. So learning how to apply concepts, for example, monocoque, which is like single hull, and that's a whole thing we'll get into a little bit later, not on this session, but later. That's a big concept that can be brought into art, to painting, so that we can go to places that surprise us, okay? But back to the story, the problem was I still wasn't happy with my art. I really wasn't going to an edge. I mean, my paintings simply weren't surprising me anymore. They were nice, people bought them, but it wasn't really that exciting. And I started flailing around, and I felt like I was running out of time. And I wasn't dedicating enough time to my art. And I kind of didn't want to go into my studio anymore. I was getting really frustrated and even kind of bored with the art I was doing. And this all came from being too focused on creating masterpieces. So it really undermined being an artist. And because I think there's a kind of pressure in that that can undermine you as an artist. And so the more I focused on creating those masterpieces and racing to the finish, you know, the more I wanted to avoid my art. It just wasn't fun anymore. It certainly wasn't flow. I can tell you that. And, you know, my paintings were becoming more similar and predictable. And to me, that's the death knell for an artist. You don't want to be predictable. Certainly, you know, not out in the world, but also not to yourself either. So, you know, what happened is when I realized that this focusing on finishing and creating masterpieces was undermining my art, I realized it was time to do something else. So I stepped back and I said, okay, what is going on here? Okay. And I noticed this pattern, not only in myself, but in other artists. And I started seeing these overarching patterns of tending to rush to the finish. And the other piece, and I mentioned it earlier when Grace was up here, is I started to notice the overarching concept of the inner journey, your psychology, your relationship to yourself, your inner narrative, how you speak to yourself is everything. It affects everything, your art and your life. Okay, basically your psychology, your mindset has an enormous effect on you as an artist. And ultimately you really got to learn to trust yourself, give yourself permission and allow all kinds of strange things to happen in your art, including ugly art. And you know, and really understand that this is, you got to go into these unknown places as an innovator to get to that exciting art. So that's that overarching I, the inner in the IC methodology, again, affecting everything. And it really is huge. And I know you know this, because ultimately we've got to get past the no, the refusal, the part of us that doesn't want to get off the sofa to get into the studio, the part of us that's afraid to say yes. Okay, the part that undermines the self-doubt, the inner criticism, all of that. We've got to go ahead anyway, even though it's hard at times. And what we're really talking about here is the hero's journey, the heroine's journey, that structure of being called to something continually in our lives and saying yes, and then being plunged into perils, and then going into the dark night of the soul, facing yourself in your art. And we've heard about this in great literature and film. It's continually in there, and you're really facing yourself. And that facing yourself is the transformation of ultimately trusting yourself. And then you come back around and something else calls you, and here we go. And we're in it. And art is continually calling us to say yes, to take those risks, to try something new, to allow the ugly art, okay, to go to that edge. So, you know, it's really ultimately facing yourself and going ahead anyway. And that's huge and extremely important. So, you know, and then as we were saying when Grace was up here, there's going to be 3 key actions that I've certainly seen. And the big one we're talking about today is starting. Because you know what, if you don't start, nothing happens. It's not going anywhere. So you got to be able to get in there. It's all over if you can't start. And so we need to keep coming back. And we talk about creating lots of starts as an artist and the value in that. And because that opens things up, that opens up the possibility of something new emerging, is to start again and again. Okay. to open those creative channels. And so it's really, it's really giving yourself that permission and going there. So let's talk about starting. Are you ready? Okay, let's start. So this idea comes from mathematics, and it's called 0 to 1. And I love this so much. And maybe some of you have heard me talk about this. I love this idea so much. It's the idea that the interval from 0, nothing, to 1, something, this interval is larger than 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and so on. This is huge. So going from nothing to something is bigger than something to something, something to something, something to something. And don't we intuitively know this in our bodies, in our minds, in our experiences? It's enormous to start. It's an enormous thing to start. And it's it shows up all the time. For me, it's like going to the swimming pool. Where should I swim? A lot. And it's like, sometimes you just don't want to go. It's cold. This is an outdoor pool year round. Sometimes it's cold. And it's like, come on, 0 to 1, let's just go. Put your toe in the water. You can always turn around and come back if you don't like it. Right? But once you get in there, whether you're swimming or you're starting in your studio, don't you notice that once you start, there's a tendency there's a momentum to continue. It makes it easier. Okay, so you burst through that surface tension and that resistance, and that is huge. And so this is a concept from mathematics that is an enormous thing. And you can bring this to your canvas. And literally the words 0 to 1, I tell myself that continually. I'll say it to Bruce, 0 to 1. It might be cleaning the kitchen. Let's just do one thing, 0 to 1. And we laugh about it, but it's really a powerful thing. And it can be a mindset thing too, to have that language, because the way you speak to yourself matters. Okay, as you're facing the unknown as an artist. And another concept here that's really powerful with starting is miles of canvas, lots of starts. And this, I think it was Anders Ericsson talked about the 10,000 hours. Have you heard about him? And other people wrote about it later. But it's that idea of, miles of canvas, lots of starts, miles in your boots if you're a skier, hours on that cello if you're a cellist, working with your voice if you're a singer. So we can extrapolate this as artists, the power of miles of canvas, lots of starts, okay? And here's another piece about why that's important. We don't want to crystallize too early, okay? Now, this is a concept Bruce and I talked about on Jim Rutt's show. This is really from mathematics and science. You don't want to science particularly. You don't want to crystallize too early. You don't want to shut it down too fast. You don't want to be reductionist, okay? You want to open it up, not close it down. Kind of like divergent thinking versus convergent thinking. You want to open it up. Don't crystallize too early. And this hooks into something in science called premature optimization. You don't want to do premature optimization because you might miss really amazing discoveries. And this was from Donald Knuth. This was a computer scientist that Bruce knows. And he talked about that. So in other words, in this not crystallizing too early, don't rush to the finish. Keep it open as long as you can, okay? So let's keep that in mind. And let's have Bruce, you got your phone ready. I'm gonna have Bruce film me from the side. And if any of you are filmmakers, you know, we do B-roll, so we get another filming of it from another angle, and you'll see it on here. So let's just look at a way of starting. Okay, so let's take this down. Okay, so take this heavy board down. Okay, now we got a nice big piece of paper here. Go like that so you can see it. Got a big piece of paper here. And you know, there's infinite ways to start a painting. And oftentimes when I do starts, I'll work on, you know, watercolor sheets, 22 inches by 30 inch sheets, or even smaller. So it doesn't have to be gigantic, but I thought it'd be fun to show this on a big piece of paper. And so anyway, so I'm going to show you kind of one way that I enjoy starting, but there's many, many, many ways. Okay. And this way is very freeing. And the idea here is to not censor yourself, censorship, not censor yourself. Okay. Don't let that inner critic or judge jump in there. Okay, this is about opening it up. This is not about shutting it down or reducing it. We want to open it because we don't want to lay the Cartesian grid over our paintings. We want to open things up, not close them down. Okay, so let's get started on a big sheet of paper and see what we got here. So this way, I'm going to show you a way again of a million zillion ways you could go, but one way that could be lots of fun is from kind of post-World War II automatism, you know, which is stream of consciousness mark making, allowing the gesture of your body to come through. It's a wonderful way to open up, creating starts, lots of starts in your studio, hundreds of starts, not censoring yourself and just getting out of the way. So, and there's a kind of immediacy to this. So let's just go ahead and do that. All right. So you got a big sheet of paper. And you can join if you want, if you've got paper there, if you got a pad, or if you just want to watch, it's totally fine, whatever you want to do. So, excuse me. So, you know, I want to get this sheet activated. I want to get past this intimidating white sheet of paper. And I might just start, you know, doing some kind of stream of consciousness moves and on this. I want to just be free and just allow whatever those moves are. Okay, it could be all kinds of moves. I don't know if you can see that well because that's a thin, it's a thin one, a thin pencil. But now I've got a heavier one. This is a, what is this? Derwent ink tints. And it really is, you know, whatever, you know, is happening for you. That might be really aggressive, or it might be really light and slow. Who knows? It could be angular lines. Who knows? Just whatever it is that day, whatever mood you're in that day. Allowing the truth of your body to come through, whatever you're feeling. Maybe you just want to just enjoy this. Okay. Then I might move into just another type of pencil. This is a pit, an oil pit. And I think it's a little bit, it's just got a different kind of darkness to it. I like these. And again, it's just expressing your body. And you can do this to music. We've done that in live workshops, responding to the music, responding to poetry, responding to a dancer, dancing when you're, you know, working on this. working with very, very thin pencils and these thicker ones, on and on. You could work with graffiti markers. I don't know if I have one of those around today, but you can put in graffiti markers, whatever. These China markers is another one. And again, I'm using black so you can see it better, right? Now, you know, if you want, you could go in and knock back some of that with an eraser randomly, or not. Seeing what happens. And, you know, just kind of moving into different materials. Like I got a little piece of this, it's a graphite, what is it, an XL? So the name of this is here. So see if you can see that. It's the Derwent XL graphite. I like that a lot. You can see it's down to a small piece now. This fine. Again, it's whatever. It might be really light and delicate. It might not be. It might be really heavy. Whatever. But it's just playing with the starts. Okay. And now I might go in with a paintbrush. I've got a long plein paintbrush here. But you can make those with, you can make it with a dowel attached to your paintbrush and just kind of, you know, it's just responding to whatever is happening for you. Okay. And you can use different colors if you want. Again, I'm using the black and white, so it's easier to see that contrast on the pall. And on and on. Here I might move into a fan brush just for fun. I found it. It's got a little bit of blue on there. Just a different mark. And I'm just dipping into, I'm just using house paint here that I get. What is this? Is this Valspar, Bruce? Something
Yes.
like that. And it doesn't matter. It's just black house paint, latex house paint. Now I'm gonna go with a little bit thicker brush just to get a different mark, playing around with that, see what happens. And then finally, well, actually, you know, there's another thing I want to show you. I love sometimes playing with this big piece of charcoal. The Big Mama charcoal. It gives a really dark mark. Right. And I'm not worried about sealing or anything like that right now. I'm not going to worry about it. And then I love this brush. It's a sash brush. I call it the Big Mama brush. It's my absolute favorite. It's in the Skoda size 8. It might be a different size now because I've had it for a long time. It's got an amazing feeling to it. The weight of it is just absolutely awesome. And I load it with water. I'm loading it up with water. It carries a lot of paint. So anyway, let's see what happens. So you see the big marks it makes. Okay. It really carries it. A lot of people. All right. So this is just an example of a start. And this is a big start. And sometimes, you know, what's really fun about starts is that there's a value in just keeping some of your starts, just allowing some of your starts and seeing what happens. And again, this is only one way, many ways of starting. You could do color fields, you could do rhythmic starts, you could do all kinds of starts, 6-month hats, all that. But keeping some of your raw starts, lots of starts, and then maybe sometimes moving further in and then even further in and kind of seeing what you like. And some of our starts we just want to keep. I've got some starts that I've not ever gone back into. Mainly I wanted to just help you see that there's a way to open it up and see what happens, right? See what happens. And don't edit, you know, don't try to get out of your mind and just allow your body to do whatever it wants to do that particular moment, that particular day. And I'll show you some examples of a few starts I pulled up. Okay, so like here's a start from a while back. This is on just a watercolor sheet. And you know, lots of times I just live with these starts. I'll have tons, I might have 20 starts, lay them down on the floor, put them up on the wall, and then pick one and go back into it. But that's the topic for another day, going back in. Right now we're talking about starts and allowing starts, even if you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do with that, right? This could be a start. Look at this. Okay, just different colors, different marks. Here's a little start. Color. Who knows what's going to happen there, if anything. Here's another. This was a really early start from years ago, and I just kept it because I love it. There's just something about the magic of making your moves and just letting them be and allowing that. Here's another one. Okay. Different marks, different thin and thick and this, that, and the other. Here we get even thinner, more lyrical, a little lighter. See what happens. It might be very, very fine lines. Okay. And here's another one. A black on black. Just some rhythmic movements with a different kind of glossy black on a flat black. Anyway, you get the idea. It's really creating lots of starts and allowing this, because that's going to open it up for you. And some of your marks may be slow, some fast. It all depends upon the mood you're in that day, whatever it is for you. And just trying to give you an idea about that. So let me just see where we are. Hold on, give me a second. I want to make sure I cover everything here. Yeah, just a minute. Bring it down. Just a second. I think one of the keys here is just not overthinking, okay? And really building up a repertoire of lots of these starts. I've got hundreds in here in this studio, and I keep a lot of them raw, and some of them I'll go back into, and some I might go into layers and layers, you know what I mean? And it just really depends. And it's kind of like listening to these starts and seeing what they want. And yeah, so I encourage you to consider that, to go into your studio and try this out. Maybe you could work on like the smaller paper if you want. Create 5 to 20 starts, just allowing it to come through and not knowing what's going to happen. And just let those live in your studio and see what happens for you in that. And you might play with big brushes, small brushes. You might use just one brush on it. You might use multiple different types of materials on it. You might use different colors. It could be anything. Because remember that you're the one, you are the author and the composer of this work. And it's really up to you to decide. And really just allow yourself this possibility. So I'm a big fan of lots of starts, fewer finishes. Not getting too hung up on the finish, not racing to the finish, okay? Lots of starts, okay? And, playing with music, working with a dancer, playing with poetry, who knows? It really depends upon you, what you want to bring to it, what your particular mood is. It might be black on black. It might be heavier marks. It might be lighter marks. But you get to decide. And again, it depends because remember, your art reflects your life on that particular day, what's going on for you, and allow it to do that. And so here's the big question now, given all this we've been talking about today. What now? Well, let's look at what we've talked about so far. We talked about starts, lots of starts, the importance of 0 to 1, okay, from nothing to something, 0 to 1, just start. You could start anywhere. Lots of starts, miles of canvas, okay? And again, and that you could potentially go in your studio today and create 5 to 20 painting starts and just allow that. And then decide from there, do you want to keep them raw? Do you want to take 1 or 2 or a few or all of them further and even further? Okay, and really kind of building on that repertoire and allowing that. But I'm a big fan of keeping some of those starts. Clearly, some of these I've had for years. So I'm a really big fan of allowing yourself to do that. But it really is up to you what you want to do. And so this is an important key to your growth as an artist, is lots of starts, miles of canvas, and ultimately moving towards experimentation. In order to get into experimentation, you got to trust yourself enough to do that. And you've got to trust yourself enough to create lots of starts and allow that, okay? And that's where you start to really experience that excitement. And we start with starts and then we go further in experimentation. And that's going to move us past feeling stuck. It's going to help us to loosen up. So again, you could play with stream of consciousness mark making like we did here. And this is going to set you up for cultivating experimentation so that you can move past emulating others and create art that's unique to you, that surprises you, because you're truly experimenting and you truly don't know what's going to happen. You're stepping into the unknown, and this unknown is coming up through you. And that's where the mystery is and the magic is. And I believe when that starts happening, when you really start experimenting, that something magical is going to happen with your art. And we're going to get into that because we want to move past emulating others. We want you to have your art, your own surprising art. And moving past, just kind of art that's predictable into experimentation, allowing, activating a sense of allowing, including allowing ugly paintings and all of that. And this is what we're going to get into tomorrow. Very exciting stuff tomorrow on experimentation and how important that is. So, so you got your starts, you got lots of starts. Maybe you want to keep some of those raw. Maybe you want to go back further into them and take it further with further experimentation. So whether you're beginning here and you just want to create a foundation of abstract paintings in your studio, or you're a seasoned artist and you really want to innovate more, and you want to create art that not only excites you, it might even scare you. And this is what we're going to get into tomorrow. So I'd love to, see your comments. Tell me about your experiences with creating starts, your experiences with 0 to 1, going from nothing to something, pushing past resistance, getting into your studio, facing a blank canvas. And I'm curious, have you been creating lots of starts? Is this something that you want to start doing? And do you understand the power of not focusing too much on the finish, but rather on the magic of starts? I'd love to hear what your studio practice is and what's important to you, and kind of, how do you move off of rushing to the finish, and how do you open up those creative channels? And also, how would your life be different if you allowed yourself to open creative channels, create lots of starts, and just allow that flow to come through as you go in there, and you don't, critique yourself, and you don't, you're not self-conscious, you're just allowing whatever. And what if you really built up a repertoire of starts? So leave me a comment below. I'm going to look here in just a second, see what's going on here. I've seen some things scrolling down as I've been talking. And I think that it's so important to open it up. 0 to 1, there's magic in starting. There's magic in you. Let it come through. This is how you begin creating your deepest art, is allowing and opening and being present in the moment. And so next up, I'm going to look at the comments in just a minute. Next up, we're going to talk about the issue of emulating others and moving past that, and how you move past that with experimentation so that you can experience art that's unique to you. So can't wait to see you on session 2 tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here. It's the same place, same time. I'm going to jump down here and look at comments and see what's going on. So thanks so much. Okay. Clicking here to see what's going on. I see there's lots of comments. Lots of comments. Oh, Donna, thank you. Thanks, Donna. Oh, wow. Thank you all. It's going so fast. I see some people I know in here too. Dawn. Oh, thanks, Dawn. And Diane. Oh, Diane, I haven't seen you in a while. It's so great to see you. Wow. Oh, don't worry, June. We'll have a recording. You said you just logged in. Don't worry at all. Yay. Elizabeth Cassidy says she's heading to her studio right now. That is great. Bruce, do you want to help me with the comments? It's going so fast. And I'm like, yeah, lots. Beth. Hey, Beth. You're so welcome. Oh, thank you so much, everybody. Marina. Anne, you're so welcome. Cassandra. Beth. June. It's so sweet, everybody. I see Christina's in here. Leslie. Hey, Leslie, I hope that helps you move past that stuck place. Shannon, yes, the playful kind of homework. We like that type, right? We want to get into flow. Yes. Is it stayed? says lots of starts. I keep a journal of starts. Fantastic. It's so much fun. Now for going bigger, freeing. Yes, it's very freeing because with the bigger, you can really move your whole body easier. So that's really fun. Ariana says, thanks, Nancy. Happy to dive into starts again. Fantastic. Elizabeth Melmgren, hey, great to see you. Says, thank you and Bruce so much. Bruce is smiling. Krista, can't wait. Stephanie, thank you. From the Netherlands, wow. I gotta get to the Netherlands sometime. Elizabeth Cassidy, she's heading to her studio. Susan, Anna, you're so welcome. Yay. Just looking to see who we got. June, yay. Marla, everybody. Oh, you all are so sweet. Terry, I have lots of starts and few finishes because I am too afraid to go back in and finish something. Thanks for the permission to have lots of starts and lots of ugly paintings. Oh, yes, 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 Terry. Well, we'll get into more tomorrow, Terry. All right. Camellia says she's doing lots of starts. Now she realizes what she's doing. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm just kind of running through. Diane says, I took your first class a few years ago when my husband was dying. It has helped me enormously. Hey, Diane, so great to see you. Thank you, always. Sylvie, I know you mentioned this before, but what paper are you working on? What type? And is it 90 pounds or more? This paper that I like to just experiment with, and it's good paper. It's acid free. It's 90 pounds. You know, it's thin, but it's inexpensive. It's called Borden and Riley. Okay, Borden and Riley. I'll write it down here. Just a second. Out the way. Yeah. So. Oh, wow. Ken Johnson says, the last time I played along with you, I created a start, one of many, went on to a finished painting that sold at an art exhibit in Fort Myers at the Alliance for the Arts. The director of the place bought that painting from that show. I was tickled. That's great, Ken. That's fantastic. You know, a lot of times people just love the starts because they're so alive. They're very fresh and they're very honest and alive. And there's just so much about that. So that's great. Yeah. Okay, everyone. I think we're good. Diana Green, it's 90 pounds. Do we know how many grams that would be, Bruce?
Well, it's 90 pounds, it's like 40 kilograms. So I don't know what that translates into per unit, square meter or something.
Okay. Jennifer. Okay, Jennifer says, thank you from Australia. It's Wednesday morning here. Wow. Yeah, Mary Jo Fulmer says Google will give you conversions. Thanks, Mary Jo. Yeah, just convert it, Diana. Okay.
133 grams per square meter.
133 grams per square meter, Diana. Yeah. Linda Zemeski says, I've done some starts that I really like. Yes, and decided to leave them as is. I love what you said. In one of your bonus videos that you said starts may be where you stop. Yep. I am big time into these starts, Linda. Yes, it may be where you stop. That's exactly right. Rod says calligraphy pens and brushes help me make a variety of marks. I love Arch's text woven sheets. Ooh, nice. That sounds good. Yeah. You know, whatever it is that really helps open it up, that's so important. Annalise says, thank you so much. Nancy, you're so welcome. Wonderful. Thank you. You all are Lovely. Pam says, thanks. I do have a lot of ugly ducklings and look forward to seeing what happens. Yep. That's so great. Leah from Belgium. Fantastic. And yes, Christine Waller asked, where can we find the recording? I was late. Don't worry at all, Christine. Posna will be emailing that out. You know, it's fine. We'll get that recording to you, okay? I don't know the details of that, but just don't worry about it. Mac, love the idea of being a free spirit with my art. Jutta, greetings from Germany. Hello. Eugenia, greetings. Thank you from Argentina. I just love it. Camila says thank you to Bruce as well. Yay. Yeah, Bruce. He's great. Diana Green, how is it when you get to the inner knowing of stopping or moving further? That is, you know what, it's over time. And it's, this is part of the reason why it's miles of canvas is really important. Lots of painting, lots and lots and lots of painting. The more you paint, the more you experiment, the more you make starts, the more you're going to learn to trust yourself and just decide. Just decide. It's not, you know, it's like, you can start anywhere. You can stop anywhere. It's up to you. And just don't get too hung up on one particular painting. And then it's not quite as scary to make a decision. And in art, we've got to make decisions. Decidere, to cut through, to decide. Okay, so just allow yourself to decide. And, you know, you may love it, you may not. We're not going to love every single painting, but every single painting is important. It's a part of your process. And some of them we're going to be really uncomfortable with. We may think, oh, I stopped too early. Oh, I went too far, whatever. But we want to play with that. Okay, so I'm going to go down. Oh, right. Yes, Carolyn. Exciting as fire, Nancy. Thank you. You're so welcome, Carolyn. Sorry, everybody, my eyes are not great. Raquel, or Rachel, thank you so much, Bruce and Nancy. Yes, thinking of allowing ugly paintings is so liberating. It sure is, and we'll get into that, more of that tomorrow. Now, that's also one of my favorite things is allowing ugly paintings. So anyway, let's wrap it up here, everybody, and we'll get copies of what you've written in here, and I'll look over it. I love to see your comments. And so we'll get a document of that so I can see what everybody said and give me a chance to see your thoughts. And I appreciate you very much for being here. And I encourage you to get into your studio and create some of these starts for yourself. And art is one of the most amazing things in the world. It's healing, it's transformative, and it's amazing. So I love being here with you, with artists and fellow artists and creators and innovators. So I will see you tomorrow, same time, same place, 10 o'clock. Get ready to rock and roll with experimentation tomorrow. So again, thanks so much. And we'll get going there. And Hosna, let's go ahead and get a copy of everything of the chat. So we have it. And we'll go from there. So thanks so much, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. Get ready to experiment. All right. Thank you. I'm gonna close it off now. Okay. Lots of starts. Miles of